So up until this point, you're probably wondering when we're actually going to start drawing. And before we do that, I want to go over some things that I think will help make your drawings better. And it involves using your entire arm when you draw. In one of my earlier videos, when I was talking about tablets, one of the comments that I made is, the smaller the tablet, the less you're going to be able to actually move your arm because the area that you're drawing in is actually really small. The larger the tablet, the more you have the ability to move your entire arm. And many professional artists will use their entire arm. They'll actually, and I'm holding my shoulder here, just as a way of it's a habit of mine that I tell my students to do, just so that you can feel that muscle actually moving. And one of the things that a lot of novice artists struggle with is, how do you make confident curvy lines? Or how do you make really nice circles? And the answer is, you use your entire arm and not your wrist. If I were to try to make that same circle with my wrist, it's not going to look as good. So that's my first tip. When you're drawing, draw with your entire arm, whether you're left-handed or right-handed. It's one of the reasons why in many traditional drawing classes, you're having to draw on a large sheet of paper, because it forces you to use your entire arm so you can capture what you're looking at. So that's my first thing that I would tell you to do. Now, I want to show you a quick method of getting rid of whatever's on a specific layer. Yes, you can delete the layer, but there's another way too. And that involves holding down a keyboard shortcut, Command A, selects all. It's also Control A on Windows. And then if you have everything selected, you're going to see these marching ants around your canvas. If you hit the Delete key or Backspace, you get rid of everything that's there. And if you hit Command D, it deselects. So Command A is to select all. Command D is to deselect. And on Windows, it's Control A and Control D respectively. And we're going to be using those keyboard shortcuts over and over again, and I'll have those written in the description as well so you can remember it. But very, very important to be able to do that. Now, let's practice using our arms. So the first thing I want you to do is just get used to the idea of only using your arm and locking your wrist down. Drag lines from left to right. Try to have your arm rest on the surface of your tablet. And you want your arm to glide across. And then when you're doing that, also try to make some straight lines too. And the idea is not so much about making a straight line, it's about getting your brain and getting your arm to understand that you're using the entire arm and not your wrist. This is something that I do as a warm-up exercise every day because it helps loosen up those muscles to where I can draw with confidence. Line confidence has to do with the ability of making a mark without having to feather. A lot of times when people are drawing, when they're first learning, they make a lot of hesitant lines, and I'll just delete this really quick. And what we want to do is we want to be able to have continuity within that line. We want to be confident with our line, and we don't want this kind of hesitancy. So this is not good. This is what we want. So over time, you will get more proficient at making marks. So if it's not coming yet, these are some exercises. Another great exercise that I prefer to practice, and again, I'm going to hit Command A to select all. And you can hit Delete, right, or Backspace. You can also, if I wanted to select something, for example, Command A, I can also hit Command X or Control X, that cuts. So sometimes you'll see me using Command X, or sometimes you'll see me using Backspace. Those are both quick ways of getting rid of what's on a layer. So another great technique to practice is making stars. And again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make intersections, and you're focusing on the movement of your arm. And it's just basically training your hand-to-eye coordination. And this is really important, not only for a tablet monitor type device, but it's especially important if you're drawing with a standard slate type of tablet. This will train your eyes and your hands to make those marks with confidence. And it may not happen right away when you're working with a slate tablet because you're looking at the screen and your hand is moving independently, but just like in video games, if you practice it enough, you will get more proficient. And it's really about doing it repetitively. So that's another exercise that will help you with line confidence. So we've talked about making horizontal lines down the page, and then we've talked about making vertical lines, and you're pulling these lines towards you. You want gravity to help you out. You don't want to draw your lines going away from gravity because it doesn't make as good of a line. And the other thing is making stars, right? And you're focusing on the movement of your arms. Now, these are exercises that are they're like Mr. Miyagi exercises. In other words, you think that it's kind of simple and it doesn't really make sense, or it's like, well, this isn't drawing anything cool. But these are skills that once you build these in, when you're drawing something like a cartoon character or a vehicle or what have you, it just makes that process that much easier. So you just have to trust me at this point, because it's something that will definitely help you out. So this is working on developing our line confidence, and in turn working with our entire arm, because we're pivoting off of our shoulder blade, we're not pivoting off of our wrist. Like, the biggest circle you can make with your wrist is that big. But if I use my entire arm, I can make a really huge circle. And this bigger circle looks better than my smaller circle because I'm pivoting with a greater radius. So very important to train your arm with these exercises. Practice them every single day, and I promise you, you will get more confident with your mark making and making lines. So that's all I have for today's video. Watch this, practice this every single day. Do it for the entire, do it for like 3 months, 6 months, and you will see a difference probably within the first month itself of doing it. I promise you. So stick with it, and I'll see you in the next video.